Welcome back, sports fans. Welcome to episode 3 of the Desert Doctors. The issue is, you've all seen the bike in the last episode. Quick update, I've got a bike obviously, Pado's got a bike, Grant still hasn't got a bike. We are 7 weeks out. According to the camera, it is the 9th of April. So we start this thing on June the 1st or 2nd, we'll see how we go. So we haven't got much time left, so today we're going to be stripping this thing to bits, putting on my parts, protection parts, electrics, all that kind of stuff, checking it all over because it's not my bike. I haven't had it since new. It is 6,500 k's old, so we need to take it apart and check everything because it's a 6,500 k trip. You want the best possible chance of survival. Even though it is a DRZ, they say nothing can go wrong. Well, prior planning and preparation prevents piss poor performance. There you go, hot tip from Burnsy. On that note, let's get stripping the bike. Relax the bike. Right after this. Lots of work. Let's get into it.
A few moments later.
Unreal. This is why you check your bike before you go on a big ride. Try to take the bash bit off. Forward bolt completely seized, back 2 bolts they just spin in, so there's loose nuts in the back for some reason which look pretty hard to get to. Planning, people, planning. Alright, so the back bolts didn't need to come out obviously, but if I had to take that front bolt out in the bush I would never have got it undone. So I'm glad that's over with. I'll be going back in with a bit of anti-seize and maybe a spring washer.
Alright, let's get stripping this bike, seat and the tank off first for a look inside.
Needs a good clean in there.
Just starting to get this back end apart now for some mods and some service items. This big number plate holder is the first thing to go. That won't last long in the bush anyway. Then we get to taking off all the linkage and swinging arm for a look. I forgot how much there is to these linkage rear shocks. I've been spoilt over the years with KTM PDS suspension, but it is just nuts and bolts. It's easy as.
Now I know what you're thinking, why have I taken it apart so much? Well, I think like that too sometimes. So when I went to pick the bike up, I done the normal weight off the back wheel test, and there was a bit of clanking going on there. Hard to tell which one it is when they're all connected together, so I took it all off, and I haven't undone this one yet, and there's a bit of play there, so I think that's where the knock-ins come from, so I might be able to get away with just changing that one bearing in there. We'll see how it goes, but yeah, that's the reason why I've taken off this much. Yeah, here's what it is. Let's get on with it.
Getting more access here to take the carby off. The carby's got a fuel leak out of the float bowl, so we need to have a look at that. Sprocket's coming off for a gearing change, and I'm taking all the bits off, getting ready for a valve clearance check. Now, the book says to do this every 24,000 kilometers. Yep, that's right, a crazy 24,000 kilometers. But let's have a look anyway. Even though this bike's only got 6,500 k's on it, it's a pretty straightforward job with the top dead center marks in there. You can't really go wrong.
What? Valves are perfecto. So now I can put the engine head back on, bolt that back up and start the rebuild.
Here we are replacing the starter gear case screws for Allen headed bolts, as they're notorious for seizing and needed an impact driver to remove, and these ones did, so it's best to do it now than try and do it out in the bush. Back to the carby now, and as well as the fuel leak, I also wanted to check the jetting. It's got a JD jetting kit in there, so I wanted to see what the numbers were, and it's lucky I did because I found a bit of a problem.
It looks like what happened was this plastic, I don't know, separator slide was off to the side like this. You can see the body of the carby there that this runs on.
supposed to be sitting over the top of that thing in the center. So if it's off to the side there, like what it was, you can see it's bent. So when I took it off, it was just like sitting like that. So when the float's in there, it's fouling on the float, which has potential to keep the float from seating the needle, which stops the fuel from coming into the bowl, which would stop it from overflowing out of the overflow pipe. So I'm hoping that'll be it, but I'm going to clean it anyway. I'll put something in there to keep it apart overnight. That should reshape it for tomorrow, right? To put back together. A couple more jets to come out. One there, that's the needle jet, and another two in there. We'll get them all out, clean them up. I'm also doing the carby breather mod here. It's just a few T-pieces and some hoses that get routed up behind the headlight, and that makes the bike breathe better when under deep water crossings. Just Google it, you'll get a million results on how to do the mod. Carby's going back in. Let's start to get this thing back together. I know not everyone would do this to a bike they just bought, but I need confidence in this thing. I'm going to be crossing one of the remotest deserts in Australia on it. Time to clean up the swinging arm and all the linkage parts. Everything was inspected and checked, and it was all okay and full of grease. Now it's clean, ready to put back in. It turns out there wasn't a bearing issue, the bottom link arm was just not torqued up properly. There's no play in it anymore after retorquing it to spec. That one was an easy fix. Now for the pannier rack install and the tail tidy, nice and easy, just bolt it up, heaps of Loctite. Deleting the side stand cutout switch here, the less electronics on the bike the better really, to avoid any issues in the middle of nowhere. Trying to change the rear sprocket here, it was an absolute nightmare. I had to grind the nuts off, they were that tight. So I gave up and I changed the tube instead. Put a UHD ultra heavy duty 4mm thick tube in there to avoid any punctures. Bit of a nightmare to fit, but it should be worth it. Job, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Some nice bling getting installed here with case savers and frame guards from B&B down in Ballarat. Can't afford it. Champagne Perrier, finished frames on my face, looking like I'm from the deep. These no Cartiers, pockets deep, bro. I can make it in my seat, bro. Do you, I'm doing me, bro. Now I've grinded the sprocket off, it's time for a freshie. I'm going to use 1544 gearing. They say it's a happy medium without going inside the gearbox for rework, so we will go with that. And obviously a fresh chain to go with it to finish the driveline off. On the strip. Neighborhood be the name. Neighborhood no crib. Neighborhood that's me. Neighborhood that's Nick. Neighborhood do the dance. Neighborhood do the dip. Okay, thought I'd never make it like no way. I'm the real deal, no role play. My days off, that's no days. No, I hustle hard, young bro. Another quick little mod here is to grind off the sharp edge of the gear shifter so it doesn't punch through the ignition case. If you have a fall, it could go straight through. Just round it off like this and that should make it nice and safe. Some more B&B stuff going on here. This is the case saver, so if your chain breaks, it should just send the chain down out of the way. It's cheap insurance really, don't ride without one. Trust me, I'm speaking from experience. More protection going on here with the radiator guards. Once again, it's just insurance. Even though they are protected by the big safari tank, you never know. Easy to fit, you just need to protect the tank by putting some rubber protection on the outside of the guards, or they might wear through the tank. Okay, so I'm taking the front end apart here for steering, head grease and just a general look. I did also get my front and back suspension fully worked by Darren at DB Race Suspension for the heavyweight it will be carrying. So thanks Darren, and we will test it out soon.
I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets. When I'm performing, never boring, now you can't afford it. Champagne Perrier, finish friends on my face.
Front tyre tube change to the ultra heavy duty, same as the back before we put the front wheel back on. Heated grips going on here. I know, what am I turning into? But apparently it's cold in the desert. We will see. Changing the foot pegs over here for the larger RHK ones, just to feel a little more planted when standing on the bike. You can see the difference in size. It feels much more stable when you're riding for sure. I've got them on the 990 and they work well.
I'm the real deal, no role play. My days off, that's no days. No, I hustle hard, young rose. E be the shooter, that's cold case. Those on the deals, that's brose. Got no pay, yo, no say. Okay, this the news, tell them read it.
Time to modify the side stand. The original won't cope with the soft sand, that's for sure, so I chucked a bigger plate on the bottom. A quick welding and spray job. Don't look too hard. I ain't the best welder, but she ain't going anywhere.
Such a boring job of electrics. I'm not going to bore you with time lapse of this rubbish. It's going to get done. Getting ready soon. And there we have it. There's a few more things to do, but I'm going to call it a day for that episode. Obviously I got all the luggage to go on there, set all that up, the extra fuel bladders, the GPS mounted up the front, and a few other bits and pieces, front brake bleed, change of front tyre. But I've got to go away to work now for a couple of weeks. So, until then, we'll see you on the next one. Oh, and Grant still hasn't got a bike. TikTok.